Can I just test that? Yep.
Once again, sorry for the delay there, slight technical hitch. We're on declarations of interest. Clerk, would you please report on any declarations of interest received?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. No declarations have been received. If members do believe they have a declaration of interest or a disclosable interest, if they could just refer to the flow chart that's in the agenda, please. Thank you.
Item 3, minutes of the previous meetings. We will take item 3, the minutes of the previous meetings held on the 30th of January and the 20th of May 2025. Are those in the room agreed as a true record? I'll take a consensus. Any dissension? None. Agenda item number 5, receiving the report from the Bournemouth Civic Working Group. Could the Chair, Councillor Lawrence... Oh yes, sorry, my error. I skipped one. The Charter Mayor's report. As I said, that I do apologise for, Councillor Jackie Edwards, because she's unwell, does pass her apologies on. The Mayor, the Office of the Mayor, attended 16 engagements since she took office. And I know from Jackie the keenest, or should I say, the one which she remarked on most was for her own actual chosen charity for the mayor, the Bournemouth Natural Sciences Society on Christchurch Road. I had the opportunity, standing in a little bit later, to also attend a private function as a thank you for their volunteers. If you've not been along to the Bournemouth Natural Sciences Society, it is yet another hidden gem within Bournemouth, and I do highly recommend it. They've got details on their website. I also had the opportunity to deputise for the mayor on a few of those occasions, the 16 engagements, and my highlight was the meeting for attending the summer fair at the Queen's Park Infants and Primary School, mainly because I got a free hamburger. So yes, that was great fun, but it's always great to have the engagement of the children at our schools, and it was a particular glorious day, and even the fire brigade turned up. So moving on to agenda item number 5, the report of the Bournemouth Civic Working Group. Can I call upon the Chair, Councillor Lawrence Williams, to please introduce the report and move any recommendations? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. At the meeting held on January 2025, the matter of attendance of the Charter Trustee meetings was discussed. As a result, trustees resolved that attendance at meetings was to be reviewed at each subsequent meeting by way of a standing item. Meeting attendance details can be found on Appendix 1 of the reports. To that separate Report 6. The Civic Working Group has reviewed the attendance details and feel it would be beneficial to again ask the Honorary Clerk to write to all trustees who have not attended the 2 most recent meetings. In doing so, it's requested that the Honorary Clerk reiterate the importance of attending meetings and to offer the relevant trustees the opportunity to confirm whether they wish to continue as Charter Trustees or whether they wish to be considered for removal. Trustees will recall that the previous Charter Trustee meeting, meeting, was held on the 20th of May 2025. 2 trustees' request for removal was formally approved. This recommendation is set out in the report detailed within the agenda item. Moving on to the mayoral portrait, due to the mayor's absence, this item will be discussed at the next Charter Trustee meeting. Service level agreement. Work is underway on drafting of a service level agreement, an SLA, which sets out the provision of support for the Charter Trustees from BCP Council. The CWG will give further direction on the SLA before making a recommendation on its formal approval to a future Charter Trustee meeting. Feedback of the recent mayor making event. We discussed this in some detail. The working group members provided feedback to the recent mayor making event on the 20th of May 2025. The event was deemed a success, though it was suggested that the team should consider offering more precise instructions for photographers, improving seating arrangements for proposers and seconders, and making printed agendas available at future events. Updating of mayoral photographs displayed in the Civic Centre, and finally, updating of mayoral photographs displayed within the Civic Centre. And finally, the working group requests that the Civic team update the official photographs of past mayors displayed within the Civic Centre to include recent photographs, potentially with a new frame. And that covers the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Do any trustees have any questions on the report as delivered by the chair of the Civic Working Group? Any at all? It just stands for me to thank you very much for the work, Councillor Williams, of the Civic Working Group. It's a invaluable part of the mayoral office because they deal with the day-to-day nitty-gritty so that we can actually go out and perform the primary objective. And they take care of making sure all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. So thank you greatly for the work of the Civic Working Group. I'd also remind all trustees that any one of you is more than welcome to attend a meeting of the Civic Working Group. Usual procedure. Normally polite to ask the chair before you rock up. And it's also quite nice to let the mayor know that you intend to attend. And if you have any issues which you think that the Charter Trustees can be improved, then by all means do let Councillor Williams know, and the Civic Working Group will look at that. And I'm sure that you would welcome that, Councillor Williams.
Most certainly, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And while we're on the subject of thanks, I did neglect in my announcements, or should I say, the Mayor's announcements, to thank one of our longest serving members of the Charter Trustees, our Honorary Clerk, Graham Farrant. Graham has served the Charter Trustees since its inception in May of 2019. And I can quite honestly say he has the best attendance record of any Charter Trustee in this room. So could I ask for a round of applause, because this will be the last Charter Trustees meeting of Bournemouth that he'll be attending as Honorary Clerk. And could I ask that that's noted in the minutes? Thank you very much, Honorary Clerk. So moving on, business item number 6. Aha, the audit report. Mr. Fraser. Ooh, Mr. Fraser. Go back. Okay. Can you please introduce the report on the audit? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Deputy Mayor, I should say. Yes, so trustees are advised to review the audit report I set out in the papers. I won't go through each and every item, except to highlight that there are no items of high priority listed in the audit report. They're all medium and low. We have taken on board the recommendations as made by the audit team, and where appropriate, we have taken steps to enact and put in place measures to address those recommendations, or are in the process of doing so. The only thing I would say is where we haven't done so is R9, which details the publication scheme. There was a recommendation that a detailed asset register be published to the public website. We have taken the decision, and it is a long-standing decision, to not to do so on the basis that we are concerned that to do so would compromise the security of the assets and or the civic heads or the staff carrying or wearing them. In addition, there was a recommendation that we publish all expenditure over £100, but as per the guidance, we feel that is too onerous a task given the staff resources and the limited software that we have, limited financial software we have as at the time. So we are not looking to do that at the moment. So beyond that, I'd suggest that the item be noted, but of course any questions, I'm happy to take.
Could I invite questions on the audit report, please? Councillor Armstrong. Sorry, Trustee Armstrong.
Like to thank you. It's the first time using this wonderful system. I have got a question with regards to R6 of the audit report, and I couldn't really pass by it without raising concern. This audit paper confirms that we've currently got £97,000 held in reserves, and that normal financial practice recommends maintaining reserves at around 20% of our annual expenditure. So what we're holding is significantly above that threshold, which raises an important question about the setting of the precept and have we got that right? Because it doesn't seem like we have, and it would be really amiss of me not to highlight that we are in a time when household budgets are under enormous pressure, especially, due to the cost of living crisis. And I think, everybody is counting the pennies more and more. And holding such an excessive amount of reserve, I think, really risks eroding public trust. And also is not really in step with the reality that many of our residents are facing at the moment. So I'd really like to highlight that, and I would like some further information about what steps are being taken to ensure that the precept reflects the situation of our residents. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Trustee Armstrong. You raise a very, very good point. It is discussed normally at our budget meetings, but I'm sure that if we call on Mr. Fraser and Mr. Filmer, then they'll be able to give some advice as regards the nature of why our reserves are quite so high, and also to be able to advise us just give or take how many pounds, pennies, etc. it is for each household that the precept is. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I think without going into too much into the next report, which is around the financial update and outturn, the 24-25 budget was based on the premise of drawing down just under £25,000 of reserves, which kept the council tax precept frozen. Because we've underspent in 24-25, because we haven't carried out civic events as planned, because of the legal advice that we've received, we've only drawn down £6,000 worth of reserves. That's the first time since the inception of the Charter Trustees that we've drawn down reserves. Every year since their inception, they've increased. So that's the first year it has reduced. For the 25-26 budget, again, we're budgeting on the premise of using reserves to support the budget, which has frozen the precept once again. Hopefully that's useful.
Trustee Armstrong, any follow-up?
Clarify, so will the amount be frozen at this current year's amount? Okay, how do we justify charging that at all? Pardon my if we've got all this money sat in reserves, why do we need to charge a precept?
Mr. Filmer, I think you'll go on to talk about the fact that the budgets are set in line with the council tax going out, and that it's something which was decided by the Charter Trustees. Perhaps it'd be useful just to confirm the rough ballpark figure for how much each household has been charged, but I think I'm correct in that the documentation goes out along with the council tax when it's been agreed.
Through you, Deputy Mayor. Yes, so when residents receive their council tax bill, they do receive on that letter the precept for the Charter Trustees, which I think from memory is around £2.16 for a Band D property, so less if you're in a smaller property, higher if you're in higher banded property. In terms of the justification, I think when we presented the budget working group prior to bringing to the budget for January, we've discussed about reducing the council tax precept and using reserves to allow that. But what the feedback we had from that working group was that we didn't want yo-yo of council tax, because the issue that we might have is if we reduce council tax one year, we might have to increase it significantly the next year to put us back on the level where we need to be. So that I work off that feedback. So I would invite anyone to come along with those budget working groups to have that input into the budget next year.
Any further questions on the audit report? Thank you. Trustee Salmon. Joe Salmon.
So, like, I get that with, I don't know, running a service, maybe there could be an unexpected cost. Like, was it last year, increasing national insurance or the minimum wage? One of them meant that our social care bill went shooting up. Do we often have unexpected, civic costs come out of nowhere? I guess a royal could die unexpectedly, but it doesn't seem like there are a lot of black swan events.
Thank you, Councillor Salmon. Mr. Filmer, perhaps you'll cover that question during your budget report, or your, should I say, the outrun, or you wish to reply just now? Thank you.
For you, Deputy Mayor, the budget for the Charter Trustees, in the main, I forget the percentage, is fixed because they consist of charges from the council for support for the Charter Trustees. The civic events and things like hospitality are variable because it's dependent upon the mayor holding those events and what they choose to put on. But that's a small minority of the budget. Most of it is fixed, and we have certainty throughout the year of those costs.
Trustee Salmon, any follow-up question?
So I'll wait until we're in there.
Thank you so much. Any further questions on the audit report? None at all. Thank you so much, Mr. Fraser, for producing that report. It's very informative, and thank you for the trustees for examining it so that we can have such a quality of questions as regards how the public may actually view these meetings. Moving on to agenda item number 7. Sorry, do we need to vote on that we noted? Yes. Sorry, could I ask for a vote on that we note the audit report, please? All those in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you. That appears to be unanimous. Moving on to agenda item 7, the budget outrun and AGAR. Can I call upon Mr. Filmer? Would you introduce the report?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So the report covers firstly the outturn for 24-25, which is set out in Appendix A and details all the budget lines for the 24-25 year. The Charter Trustees underspent by just over £17,000, which, as I mentioned just earlier, is primarily a result of not carrying out some of the events that we had previously assumed when setting the budget for 24-25. So that underspend meant that we didn't draw down as many reserves as we'd previously expected. So as I said earlier, we've drawn down £6,000 worth of reserves rather than the budgeted £23,000. And that leaves reserves at £97,289, which rolls forward to 25-26, which is around about 60% of the 25-26 precept. So it is high, as referenced earlier. 20% is the kind of benchmark that SIPA recommend in terms of reserve levels to cover for sort of risk assessment of the authority. So Appendix B of the report is what's referred to as the annual governance and accountability return for 24-25. And this document pulls together the internal audit report that we've just received. So then that allows us to tick off the annual governance statement. And then it summarises Appendix A, the financials, so they can set out a statement of accounts. And once the AGAR, as it's referred to, is signed off tonight, it'll go online. We'll open up a public inspection of the accounts, and it then will be externally audited during July. And lastly, as per the previous agenda item, we are proposing to amend the current financial regulations to increase the competitive review requirement from its current £100, which means we have to then get 3 quotes, to £500. And as Neil mentioned earlier, that just to allow take some of the burden out the administration of those costs, but also reflects increases in costs since we pulled those financial regulations together. So I'll stop there, Deputy Mayor, and happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Can I call on questions? I think Councillor Salmon, you had one on the budget outrun and AGAR.
Just curious about the level of reserves that we seem to hold for an organiser, for a body that doesn't seem to have that many unexpected financial events cropping up in the future. I just wondered if somebody could clarify on why the level of reserves seems so high.
Mr. Filmer.
Yeah, I'm not sure I want to repeat everything I've said on the previous agenda. I mean, the reasons why reserves are high, and some of it's historic. It's in relation to sort of when COVID-19 took place and we did nothing, so those reserves shot up. The other thing that was referred to in the internal audit report is we haven't got a reserve strategy, and that's been drawn out in the internal audit report for at least 3 or 4 years, and it's something that the working group, I would suggest, needs to look at and bring to the Charter Trustees to set out what is that strategy for reserves.
Thank you much, Mr. Filmer. Yes, I can testify as being a trustee since 2019. Then COVID had a tremendous effect on everybody's life, and in some ways we've had many benefits come from COVID, such as everybody's now an expert on social media and Zoom calls. But it also affected the nature of the mayoralty and the way that it conducted itself, particularly around civic events, which were to uphold the traditional historic ceremonies of the town. With the events of the advice from the King's Council, we were advised to work within our standing orders, so that limited very much our involvement in other civic events. For instance, on Monday there, I attended on behalf of the Mayor the raising of the Armed Forces flag. You'll see outside on the flagpole this evening the Charter Trustees flag. At the town, as I call it, the town hall where I'm wearing a change, at the Civic Centre we have a flagpole which we raise a number of flags to mark national days and events and organisations. So at that particular event, that would normally have been conducted by the Charter Trustees, and they would have made arrangements for that, and that's where the budget has come from. And I think Mr. Filmer has explained why our reserves are quite so high is mainly because of COVID, and also because we've had our wings clipped as regards the sort of events which we get involved with. And I'm very grateful to the local authority for not cross-charging us the £25,000 for the King's Council advice. Any further questions from the floor? I see Trustee Allen, you're indicating.
Can I just, this is a very simple question, and I'd like to back up my colleagues' questions about this reserve, because I do think we do need to think about the financial implications for our residents. Could we not just not have a precept for a few years until the reserves go down and then start again, and then you wouldn't have your ups and downs? Just a suggestion, thank you.
If I take that one, yes, it is a suggestion, but as it indicated, then it's a yo-yoing on the events. I, for one, as a resident, do look very closely at my council tax bill. So, one, I know how much I'm going to pay on a monthly basis, and two, that I'm very interested in what I'm paying for, because you'll see there's a number of precepts on the council tax bill. I can quite honestly say that I think the £2.16, which was quoted, depending on what manner of house you live in or what residence you abide in, is the very lowest of precepts on there. I think you'll find that the fire brigade and the police service, etc., also have a precept on there which is considerably higher. So it's not something where we've discussed, in answer to your question, Trustee Allen. In previous meetings, we discussed that precept, particularly in the budget setting meeting, that precept is not something that the residents actually look at, because it is literally a few pounds and pence. What they do look at is the big one, e.g. the council tax, they also look at how much the police and crime commissioner and the fire brigade look at for the precept. So the decision was made in that meeting that to stay steady as we go and to freeze it at the precise moment in time, because the council tax bills have already gone out, and it's quite possible that it will freeze again next year. However, just thinking on my feet, it might well be that we could take suggestions from the Charter Trustees of how we could spend the reserve in events or in keeping with the standing orders and restrictions that we've got. And maybe there's an event which we could put on for our residents which would uphold the objectives of the Charter Trustees for the promotion and the upholding of the historic ceremonial events of Bournemouth itself. And that might well be something which you can put your minds to, that actually may well promote the nature of the mayoralty and bring benefit to for our residents for the precept which they've already been invoiced for, if I will. Any further suggestions on Trustee Allen's point? Councillor Conley, sorry.
Thank you. Oh, this is great. Yeah, it's the first time using it as well. I recall asking this exact question at the budget discussion last year of the Charter Trustees about the size of reserves, and I don't think it's moved on very much since then. So I suppose my question is, what do we have to do to get this moved on and have the Civic Working Group come to us with a plan for a reserve strategy, some options as to what it can be spent on, and where we can challenge this point about the volatility? Do we need to make a specific request to the Civic Working Group to come back to us on this, or is the point made sufficiently in the discussion? Thank you.
Yes, please. If I could call on the Honorary Clerk.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. My advice would be it's an issue that the working group can look at and can make recommendations. They would normally make recommendations at the time of the budget. So I think this is advance notice that you would really consider it in detail during the budget process. So my sense would be over the next 4 or 5 months, the working group has a look at what are the options for expenditure, what are the options around income, and then comes up with a balance for next year to propose to the Charter Trustees. We did do that last year, but probably thought that the expenditure levels would again be higher, certainly in terms of the budget that we set. So my sense is you've got a chance to revisit that going into next year, and you'll have a good sense of what the annual spend is at the moment without the other events that previously could have been arranged following the KC's advice. So I think you are in a position now to consider that through the working group and bring a recommendation as part of the budget for next year.
If I may, Trustee Salmon, before I call on you, is there anybody that's not spoken to this item yet that wishes to speak now? Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I'd be very happy to look at that at our very next meeting. In fact, if you can put it on the agenda, I'd be very grateful. Thank you.
Councillor Salmon, can I call on you now?
So if you're wanting suggestions from the floor, next month is the 30-year anniversary of the Srebrenica genocide, and normally the council would be holding an event to commemorate that, but I believe the team that would do that no longer exists because of cuts to council funding, which I think is very sad. It's odd that with this hat on, we're going, God, we've got best part of 100 grand sat in our pocket burning through it, and yet when we're normally in this chamber, we're going, there's not a penny in the pot. It does seem a bit odd that we can't take the massive black holes we've got in council finances and shift some of this money about, but that's the insanity of council bureaucracy. But that was my suggestion from the floor for what we could do with that money.
Thank you very much, Trustee Salmon. I would just remind all Charter Trustees that the Charter Trustees of Bournemouth is a non-political body with the primary objective of being to maintain and promote the historic and ceremonial traditions of Bournemouth, and I can confidently say that that is outside of the remit of the Charter Trustees in this meeting or any other meeting. Anything more on this item before we move on? Thank you very much, Mr. Filmer, and I know that you will take that on board with the chair of the Civic Working Group. Agenda item 8. We'll now take the agenda item 8. Oh, yes, sorry, my mistake. I'm only out of job 2 weeks and I've already forgotten the votes. So what we need to call on is to note the reports which are before us. Can I have a show of hands? All right, let's read it out properly. Oh, thank you. So we resolve as trustees that 1, we will note the outrun position of the 24-25 as set out in Appendix A. 2, we will approve the annual governance and accountability return, otherwise known as AGAR 24-25, found in Appendix B. And 3, approve the change to the financial regulations to allow the requirement for a competitive review to be increased from £100 to £500 on purchases set out in paragraph 9 to 10. Just on that last point, I can say that with confidence that will make it extremely beneficial to those that actually run the day-to-day running of petty cash, for want of a better term, but stays well within the regulations, that they don't have to go out to get free competitive votes for anything over £100, or quotes for anything over £100. £500 is a little bit more reasonable to spend that amount of time on administration, phoning around, etc. So I'd heartily recommend that one. So please, on all 3 resolutions, all for noting those 3 resolutions. Show of hands, please. Thank you. Any against? Any abstentions? That is unanimous. Moving on to agenda item number 8. Trustee attendance at meetings. I will now call upon Mr. Fraser to introduce the report.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So trustees will remember that at the previous meeting, this became a standing item. So trustees required that the attendance at meetings be reviewed at each and every meeting thereafter. So there's an updated appendix detailing those trustee attendance statistics. That is to be noted. The statistics have been reviewed by the Civic Working Group, who are minded to request that trustees approve the recommendation that the Honorary Clerk write to all trustees who have not attended the 2 most recent meetings to determine whether they wish to continue as Charter Trustees or whether they wish to be removed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any discussion on this item? I think we need to have a formal report because it's a recommendation. So if I just read it out. To note the meeting attendance record as attached in Appendix 1, and B, request that the Honorary Clerk write to all trustees who have not attended the previous 2 consecutive meetings, asking them to confirm whether they wish to continue as a Charter Trustee or whether they wish to be considered for removal. Can we have a show of hands, please? Any against? Any abstentions? 1 abstention. That is carried. Thank you very much. That now brings us to the conclusion of the meeting, and I would like to thank all attendees. We've got 21 in the room just now, which is just a little under half of the 42 trustees which we actually have for the Charter Trustees of Bournemouth. And I'd like to thank everybody viewing at home. And with that, I formally close the meeting.
Please be upstanding for the Deputy Mayor of Bournemouth, Mr. George Farquhar.